Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Wrecker, my brother. I'm doing well.
You are doing well. Your beard is back. I love it. Dude, this is just such a better look for you.
My gray beard.
Yeah, the
All
gray
right.
beard looks good on you. Yeah.
Well, I like it, and then I shave it, and then I grow it, and then I shave it. I just can't make up my
Yeah.
mind.
I know what you mean. Like my beard is like there's so much gray now.
Dude, whatever. It's all brown. It's beautifully brown. You have all this hair on your head. You have hair that's brown on your beard. I'm bald with a gray beard.
No, you're not bald. I think we both can, we both don't have to moan about a facial hair, I guess. Hey, so serious point. So last time we spoke with Brad and Gord, and you know that I have a little bit of a boy crush on them.
Yeah, which by the way, seriously, dude, never use the term boy crush again. Just use a different term. All
It
right.
is in the show notes.
Boy crush. Oh,
Yes.
geez. All right.
Anyway, but what I wanted to say is a homage to you because actually the not the only one, but the main thing that stuck with me from that episode, which has a lot of good points, especially towards the end. So if you haven't listened to the very end of it, I think they give some really interesting strategies and tips and stuff like that. Piece of advice. Anyway,
Mhm.
but you made your humility argument as an implication from your every study is a case study.
Yeah.
Right. And I've had it before, but I did challenge you and said, so what? What am I doing differently? And then you gave the humility spiel, which I had heard before, but it lingered with me. And
Ooh.
it made me think about a particular thing. We talked about this before about humble bragging, right? About
Mhm.
announcing papers that you just got published. Because
Yeah.
chance will have it that actually like in a couple of weeks ago, I posted about a new paper in an issue where actually your paper is out too. Now I posted about my paper. You didn't post about your paper at all. Like at
Mhm.
least I haven't seen it, and neither did your co-authors. And it made me think about like Jesus Christ, how about that humility aspect? Am I being humble enough or something, right? Am I doing the right thing? Anyway, so I looked at my post again, which is about the eye repair paper, because I made the connection to some legal there's regulation efforts going on and there's a law to be passed, etc. and so forth. And I looked through it and I was like, no, I don't think I'm bragging in any way because I've literally tried not to. At the same time, I want to make people aware because I do think it
Yeah.
matters. And I literally say, look, I think this matters. I'm not saying build policy based on this paper. I'm just saying, look, I think this matters to this debate. So what am I
Yeah.
like, do you have a take on this?
Right. Uh, yeah, and I'm torn, right? Think about it. On the one hand, we're in a reputation uh industry here, right? Where your reputation is what gets you citations, it's what gets you noticed, it's what gets you invitations, and anything you can do to bolster your reputation is a good thing for your career. Also, we should believe in our science. And if our science is, entries into conversations, we would want the points that we're making to be out there, right? We think they're
Yeah,
important.
exactly.
So I think both the points you're making and the reputation, I think it's perfectly uh, and I think the way you did it is right. You didn't say, I got an MISQ and I'm drinking a glass of whiskey for my MISQ, right? Or
No, I
something
did
like that.
not. Yeah.
And instead, you said, look, I got a paper published and this is the content of the paper and I'm very proud of it. So go find it. Right. I think that's fine. I think there's a slight difference in posture, isn't there? Than the people who I got an MISQ, my first MISQ, my eighth MISQ, 30th MISQ of my career. It's like, then it's about you and it's about your nonsense. When it's about the actual research, I mean, I don't think it's a problem. I think we should be doing it. Uh, I don't do it, I guess, because
I think you're not doing it because you're actually too lazy to do it. You're not
well, I'm
active on
not
these
too
things.
lazy. I'll do things. I'll post the Academy of Management stuff. I don't mind posting. I guess to me, the reason I don't do it, why don't I do it? Uh, there is that kind of aversion to self promotion that I have, right? Where I can write, and I don't know if there's an aversion to
No,
self
I
promotion, I
think
guess.
I
Yeah.
think yes. Well, but I think it's dangerous because I see a lot of junior people now being so cognizant of trying to avert that impression of self-promotion that they don't want to conjure at all because we see them everywhere. Right? We see promotion every time I open LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. So no
Yeah.
one wants to do that. So
Yeah.
people not do that at all. And I think that's dangerous as well. So I want to come out and say, look, there's a way with the right
Yeah.
posture. And yeah, that can be a little bit tricky. You probably want to
Yeah.
spend more than a minute on thinking about how you frame your post, but there is
Right.
a way. And I think people should be doing it, not just you, but everyone should be doing it like this interesting and relevant paper. And relevance means timeliness and accessibility. And these things you need to work on. And
Yeah.
just by saying, oh my God, the last thing I want to do is be a humble brag. Sure. No one wants that. At the same time, what good is it if your knowledge is lost in the wilderness of gazillion papers? Yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of counter examples out there. And no, just by you posting about your relevant, important, interesting paper doesn't make you a brag.
Yeah. All right. You've convinced me that I will do it, but I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. I think you
Absolutely.
should promote your own papers. So I'm going to do that.
Maybe we should stop calling it promoting paper, but there's some things. Look, this is a paper that people should read. This is like I
Yeah.
didn't write the. By the way, I didn't say I'm proud or whatever. None of that. I just said, look, there's a debate. Here's a paper that relates to this debate. In fact,
Yeah.
one of the implication sections is literally titled that. Like it matters to this debate. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And I don't have a better way of reaching to these communities than LinkedIn. I actually called our press release departments and like, guys, can you see that it gets in a newspaper or something like this? Not because my name should be on there, but just that these people hear it. What else are you gonna do? Give me a better
Yeah.
way of
Yeah.
reaching these people, right? So
No, I
it
get
shouldn't be
it.
about promotion.
So I think the argument for it is getting your findings out and a bit of, I mean, it is your reputation. The argument against it, I guess, is laziness or this kind of aversion to self-promotion, which is real. I mean, there is something ugly about, look at me. There's always something ugly about look at me. Like humility and self-effacing is what we respect in people. The people who put themselves in front and say, hey, everyone, look at me, look at my life, look at my, it's ugly. But I think there's a way to thread the needle. Yeah.
And I found a new instance of the self-promotion humble bragging. Do you want to see what the next level humble bragging is now?
What?
I call it biography hacking. I just,
What?
like these meaningless little short bios that people put at the end of the paper because the publisher makes them.
Yeah.
I found some amazing self-brag versions of that. Like what you can do to promote yourself at the very, very end of a paper. I don't want to name names in anything, but I was like, Jesus Christ, dude. Anyway. So,
you know what we should do?
Yeah.
We should start putting, what do you call them? The little things that you find in a movie or something that are
the
surprises.
tidbits.
Well, tidbits, but no, there's a word for it that you...
little Easter eggs.
Easter egg. There you go.
Yeah.
So we should start putting Easter eggs in our bios when we publish a paper.
Oh, that is awesome. I like that.
And
like a funny
like my next one.
thing.
All right, next time I do a bio, I'm going to say something like it. I'm also a fitness model or something. Right?
You know who does that, by the way? Short point, like Brian Pentline. He puts in his like he's published in Management Science, blah blah blah, and YouTube.
And YouTube. Oh, that's funny. Well, we should, at a minimum, we should put this podcast in our bios from now on. Say, world-renowned podcaster, on record.
World-renowned podcast. I like it. All right.
All right, but you brought up Brad Greenwood, and of course, Brad and Gord are just phenomenal. Their research is pristine, and when they work together, it's thoughtful. They do really cool stuff, and we had such a fun time talking with them that we had to cut it short. And then Brad afterwards was like, "Oh, I forgot about my special issue." He's an editor with, and I have to tell you, this is a group of people that's pretty damn impressive, right? First of all. So there's a special issue at MIS Quarterly. It's for it's called the Institutional Press in the Digital Age, right? And the deadline, I guess, an optional abstract is due April 30th. Then there's going to be a workshop due
at AOM. Yep, they're going to run a paper development workshop at AOM prior to
based on
deadline.
those abstracts. So that's August 5th in Chicago. So if you want to go to the workshop, you probably should submit an abstract. And then they'll invite you to the development. And then, of course, you go from there, and the actual submissions are due December 1st. So this is the institutional press. So, everyone knows that, wait a second, where we're getting our news is up for debate. People don't trust the institutionalized news sources anymore. There's fake news. There's all that. So the point is, and it's a hugely important thing, certainly here in the U.S., where nobody trusts
everywhere.
it.
Dude, same here. Absolutely.
And then let me just talk for a minute about this group of people. First of all, there's Ahmed Abbasi, who's my colleague here, who's the most brilliant kind of machine learning NLP person in our field. Then there's our boy Brad, right? Who's of course, a econometrician and legal scholar extraordinaire. Then you go below that, Melissa Masmanian, she does phenomenal, like ethnographies and qualitative work and all of that. And then Shayla, right? Shayla is doing my
Computationally intensive
computational,
theory
she
generation.
does everything, right? She's a theory person. She's organizational theory, social theory, that sort of thing. But she's absolutely brilliant. And then there's this guy, Robert Siemens. I don't know him, but I know his work. He's like a platform guy, multi-sided network guy, right?
Well, you know what I remember him from? I used to teach about Craigslist.
Yeah.
And I know his papers from because he's written about Craigslist, I think,
Yeah,
like
one of
early
those classic
2000s,
studies
whatever.
in the
Yeah,
mid 20 teens, right? So yeah, he's
exactly. That's what
absolutely.
he's done. Yeah.
So he's econometrician platforms that, but I have to say, these are real intellects.
That's an all-star cast.
There's
Yeah.
not a lightweight in the group, right?
It took me on, like you can be a little bit intimidated. Like if you
Uh,
throw in I wouldn't submit anything half baked to that pristine group
no.
of people. I'd be ashamed of myself. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we're going to submit something, right, Wrecker?
Yeah, yeah. So what we're doing here is we're creating public pressure. But no, I like this I like this topic very much. Yeah. So we're working on something
Yeah.
empirical.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made me think. Like I've submitted to quite a few special issues in my day. Have you? Like as an author?
Yeah. Yeah. My very first MIS quarterly was the special issue on virtual worlds,
Oh,
right? So
see, there you go.
yeah.
Not my first, but my second. The green paper. This what's it called? The sense making paper was the Green IS special issue of MIS Quarterly.
Oh, okay.
And
Very cool.
there is my first entrepreneurship paper was an entrepreneurship special issue, and I did a computational paper and a quantitative. Like I actually have a few if I think about it, 6, 7, 8.
So do you think that special issues are easier or harder to get published in?
In a way, they're easier, but they also can be harder. So I do think, let's put it this way. I do think as an author, in thinking about where do I put my work, I think there's some differences in special issues. And I'll just give you two and we can see where that takes us. The first one is this notion of topical fit has a whole new meaning, right? In a special issue, you need to have very tight, close fit to whatever the topic of the special issue is. Because in my experience, also as an editor of these things, that's the number one reason for rejection. And that matters because usually to a quarterly, they have a broad, right? They're like an umbrella journal for the entire field. You can submit anything there, but you can't submit anything to a special issue. In fact, I would interpret topical fit very, very narrowly. They're looking for specific types of papers. Now, types of papers is usually, like in this case, this is about a phenomenon, right? Institutional press, digital age. In this particular case, this seems to be, methodologically pluralistic, right? I've once had a paper in a European journal, especially on quantitative research, where the fitness was about it had to be quantitative. They didn't call it computational back then, right? So it had to be about quantitative method. So that was the criterion. But you are typically very, very strict on that fitness criterion, more so than you would do in a regular submission. Don't you agree?
So yeah. So what the fitness does is it does two things. One is it makes it harder. The other is it might make it easier. And the way it makes it harder is if you're not a real tight fit, you could have a nice paper and they'll just reject it, right? Like we did with our managing AIs.
Exactly.
Right. And then, the question is, do you burn that journal? Like if I submit to a special issue at MIS Quarterly, does that mean that I can't 3 months later just submit to a regular issue?
In my experience, first of all, I think this is the prerogative of the journal. In my experience, most journals have the policy, if we reject it anywhere, you can't resubmit. So usually the default is if you get rejected from a special issue, no, you cannot submit it as a regular paper unless you get explicitly instructed that it's okay to do so, which then, again, my experience, editors in chief, they tell you to do this only rarely. For those papers that you really think, Jesus Christ, they look brilliant, but unfortunately they don't fit. If it's a regular whatever paper and it doesn't really fit, then you're out. So that can be dangerous for an author. You can burn the journal, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, on sometimes, and just to reiterate, I think that if you reject based on fit, then you can make an argument in your letter that they said this didn't fit with the special issue. But if they reject based on, whatever else, not enough theory contribution or weak methods or whatever it is they want to reject it for, then you've burned that journal.
Yeah. By the way, which I think means there's also a little bit of an obligation to special issue editors that they make very clear whether or not they desk reject you for lack of fitness to the special issue, as opposed to for methodological, theoretical, whatever, because that is important to know. I've seen special issue where the desk reject is really handled, I'm sorry, you're out, no information given. I don't think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, let them know if it's a fitness thing, because then you could say, look, it's still a good paper. And you might want to try that you can resubmit or something, whatever the journal policy is. But at least you need to know. Authors have a right to know whether or not it was a fitness thing or an equality thing. These are not the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So I think that's the thing that makes it harder. Now, the thing that makes it easier is that they're looking for, and especially if you're doing something a little bit different. So we saw this with our special issue where we, wanted certain, we didn't have certain types of papers. So we encouraged a couple of authors who had papers like that. Like, for example, fairness. We had 2 fairness papers. We gave them both revisions, and one ended up making it into the special issue.
Yeah.
But I think that's just it. A lot of the time, special issue editors will look at it as a portfolio. And if they have, say, a bunch of experiments, they might want a qualitative paper. If they have a few conceptual papers, they might a few empirical papers, that sort of thing. I think that if they're rounding out their portfolio and you happen to fit the spot and they really care, then they'll maybe work with you a little more to nurture you into the special issue. Yeah.
I absolutely agree, fully agree. I think it's bound to 2 things. Number one, this fitness criterion, if you happen to meet it, I think it puts you in the relatively much better position than you would be otherwise. Because, like, you can flip it, right? It can be your reason to be rejected, but it can also be a really big point towards you being accepted. Yeah. And the second thing,
if you have a cool data set, or something really interesting that no one else is doing, and you submit it, and the special issue authors are clever, which this group is, they'll be like, okay, let's get this one in,
Exactly. And the second one that speaks to this is what is unique to special issues is this notion of competition. Like, in a regular way, every paper is evaluated on its own merits, right? Like, you submit a paper to the ISR and they look at it and, it takes it away, whatever, and it takes its outcome, whatever. In a special issue, you do have confined space. You have a special issue. And it could be something from, 3, 4 papers all the way to, I guess, 10, 15, although I've never seen that, to be honest, like 15 pages, so something between, I guess, 3 and 10, let's say this way. Yeah. That means you are competing for space, quite literally, for number of pages, but you're also competing in terms of what you call the portfolio, right? In fact, usually the diversity of methods. So in our own experience and in others that I've seen, the editors look for variety. Like, we have a pluralistic field. It should show very often in the special issue. So we want an econ paper, we want an experiment, we want a qual, we want a design, ideally we want everything because we want the phenomena, the topic to be investigated from all sorts of angles. Now, again, this can be to your detriment, in competition, or it could be to your advantage if you're one of the guys that doesn't do mainstream but does things a little bit differently. I'd like to think that puts you in a better position, right?
Yeah, so that's special issues, and I encourage people. And the nice thing about special issues is that once you do get in, if it's your research, somehow those papers get eyeballs, like more eyeballs in the special issue, even though we don't get physical journals anymore where we could read. Somehow, when I look and I know it's a special issue and say our AI special issue, right, I would go look at all the papers if I'm doing AI because I know that's a special issue. So I think being in with similar topics is always a good thing. Again, the self-promotion angle, right? It's a good way to automatically promote yourself.
Well, it's also because usually I think that special issues are being crafted and launched by journals to highlight new important topic areas that the journal wants to become part of the mainstream conversation, right? In a way, like a social organization. The point of the social organization is to, get some social inequality out of the way and make itself non-existent. Special issues are like that. They want to promote a certain topic areas and make it so mainstream that you don't need special issues anymore. Like the Green IS or like the econ, like managing AI.
Well, like you did with managing AI. Although I will tell you this, Recker, you and I did managing AI. We did the call in 2020. We published our papers in 2021. We turned it around in a year. Now that it's 2024, Academy of Management Review is doing their AI in management.
Yes, they are.
Strategic Management Journal is doing, and they're due October. And Robert Gregory, by the way, is one of the IS guys in that group. So if you have an Academy of Management Review is conceptual papers, right? Theory papers. You have to build theory. So that's Academy of Management Review. And then SMJ, Strategic Management Journal, has a strategy in AI. So hopefully some papers are going to draw on our work and those, and that'll, maybe we should do something. I mean, we should, but
We should, but it's a lot. So I will say this about the AI, artificial intelligence in management. I was like, hello. Anyway, but I have, let's put it this way. I don't think I have high hopes, but I have very high expectations of this special issue. You know how we've been saying for a little bit, like, look, some of these management papers, they don't, treat technology well enough. They don't theorize it well enough. Well, this is the obligation and the opportunity. Look, there's Robert on there. Robert is a very thoughtful guy. There's Alex Murray. There's Keith Levitt. There's a bunch of good people there. And I think this is now a chance and the obligation for them to do a better job with their AI papers than they have in the past. I'm sorry. I mean, this is a horrible thing to say, but I'll say it anyway.
Not that they have in the past, but that
not
people
them
outside of, but this is the deal, dude. I mean, you're kind of harsh. People inside of information systems tend to like the technology. So we conceptualize the artifact more. People outside in strategy and management and OB and whatever realize it's important, but they want to black box it, right? They don't want to get into the weeds of the technology. That's not what they want to do. So the key is, hopefully there will be a nice fruitful interchange.
Okay, first of all, the interchange would be good. Second, the visibility of this will be enormous. These papers will attract citations and downloads and reads. Okay, third, let me flip that then. Then the obligation is, yes, on the one hand, on this editorial team to make it work, but of course, they can only work with what they get. So I think the obligation is also on the IS scopes, in fact, on you and me and everybody else, because we're saying this, and we also kept saying, like, we need to go to those people, right? So I hope outlets. Like IS people, this is your chance to get into AMR and to not just criticize that AMR doesn't treat or theorize about technology sufficiently. Well, this is your chance to go and do a better job and show them, right? So, which, by the way, I'm speaking to myself here, right? I should do that too, and you should do this, and many people that we know should do this. And I'm hoping really that a lot of them are already working on these papers and submissions.
Yep. I imagine they'll get a lot of LLM stuff in both of those, right?
Of course they
will. Maybe not
but
AMR because all the LLM stuff is about experiments and such. AMR will require, conceptualization, which
exactly. And I mean, like, AI in management, I don't know, you could think about, the paper that Timo and Jin and others did on organizational learning. Like that's to me, AI impact on learning and stuff like this, or generative AI and generative learning or whatever. These sorts of theorizations, I think could be something like this.
Yeah, exploration and exploitation. They made the first kind of AI explore exploit paper, and I think that could still be extended. Like even you and I handled that. We were like the editors for that one. We even said, okay, this is good the way it is. We could think of like 5 other things they probably should do.
And as far as I know, this team is very programmatic. And as far as I know, they are doing exactly this. They built a program of work and said, like, let's do this. They have an agenda and so forth. Hey, I want to give you a third difference and thing I do like about special issues, which is limits of the review rounds and speed. They are faster and they do have less review rounds. And again, I think there's a positive and a negative aspect to it. Number one, they have a timeline. You can look at it, and it's usually faster than normally, and it's usually more or less stringent. Like they tend to follow that. Second, usually it's about 2 to 3 rounds, right? Yeah. So that can be good in the sense that you will probably by definition avoid a 6 year, 7 rounds, late to rejection kind of thing. But of course, it also makes it harder because usually what happens is that after the first round, you may get like papers that are on the fence, you get a shot, but you get another shot once, not twice. Yeah. Second, in my experience, right? Second round, you know what the set of papers will be. And then, like you take some of them further or whatever. Very rarely do you take an uncertain paper into the third round and still don't know whether it's going to make it, right? So in a way, it flips the review process a little bit in the sense like first round, sure, the obvious ones get culled out. But again, very few already look like they're clearly going to make it, in my
Right.
experience. And then the second round is really, show and tell time. Don't you
Yeah.
agree?
That's up or down. That's how it should be all the time. But I think in special issues, it actually happens that way. Yeah.
So I think all these three things. So if you put all these three things together, a little bit of competition, the topical fit, and then the timeliness or the review process. Um, I like them. If I put these three things together, I like them because of, like the type of firm level, maybe inductive, effortful on the ground, which few people do. That puts you in a good space for the competition because you don't have that much competition, to be honest. If you
Yeah.
have great topical fit and then you like your odds, or you not the like, but you're okay with the fast up or down, like I'd rather have an early rejection than 27 chances at it. That makes me like I like special issues, I guess is what I'm saying, for
Yeah.
these reasons. What about you?
Yep. Yeah, no, I think so. You've sold me. So this is what we're doing, Record. We need September. We need to submit something to SMJ. October, we'll submit something to AMR, and then December we submit the paper to MSQ, and then we take next year off.
That says Nick, because by the way, like the yeah, exactly. The December paper has a lot of empirics, and guess who's not involved in the empirics? But but it's in Germany. Like how could you? Of course, learn some
Exactly.
German, dude. Learn German and come with me on the ground and talk to people.
Hey, I'm an institutional theory guy.
Yeah, you have a place there.
All right, so I do want to bring up one other thing. So as long as we're talking about, I guess managing career and special issues and special opportunities, I do want to tell you about what we're doing at Academy Management because you're a part of it this year. You told me, do you remember this? You told
Yeah,
me
I
you would
told you that
join
I'll
this.
come.
So,
I haven't told my wife yet, so I'll have
well,
to
you
make
probably
that call.
should
I
because
should.
August you're going to be there for the doctoral consortium for the Academy of Management CTO, and of course similar topics, right? A lot of people are doing the AI stuff. That's kind of
Mm.
the data science meets econometrics meets qualitative people in IS and doing stuff around AI and all that. CTO is the division at Academy of Management. We're growing like crazy. And there are two opportunities, and the submission date is going to be early May. And if you look now, the doctoral consortium, I want to hear what you think about doctoral consortia and junior faculty consortia. But the doctoral consortium has a wonderful, wonderful group. And really it's about getting other PhD students and meeting them and also meeting some famous people, right? So Roberta Bernardi, right, is
Yeah,
running the doctoral
she's running
consortium.
it. Yeah, exactly.
And look who she has. She has the famous Jan Recker. And then Corey Angst, my other colleague over
Ah,
here, who's
nice.
awesome. So Marlene Huisman is doing it. Sam Zaza, Aaron Lindbergh, Jingjing Lee from UVA, Shayla Miranda,
Oh
Mona
wow.
Deepa,
Oh
Tarafdar,
wow.
Ivor Oborn, and Patrick McAuliffe. I think those are the confirmed ones. A
That's a
couple of
strong
those may or
lineup.
may not come. But what a great group, right? So we're going to be putting out the call here in the next couple of weeks. People are going to submit in May. And the beautiful thing about this is usually the way the doctoral consortium works, Recker, is one person gets to go from each school. So if two people apply from each school, usually the more senior person gets in with the thought that the more junior person will get in next year. Now, if you're the only person from your school, then you have a much higher chance of getting in. If it's full, and they really want to involve as many people as possible because they look at the doctoral consortium as the first step to growing the division, and this is the
Of
future of
course.
the division, right? So it's really important. And you talk to people who have done these. Now, I've never done a doctoral consortium. Have you? But way back
Yeah.
in the day, you do, yeah. Like as a student, I've done them as a mentor.
Oh no, I've done them as a student. I was at ICES 2006 and AMSIS 2007. Or in that order or the
Okay.
other order, long time ago.
And did you have a great experience? Was it a formative experience back in those days, or what?
Yeah, well, yes. Well, it touched upon parts that I didn't expect, right? So the ICES Doctoral Consortium, it was run by Bob Smoot. I don't
Mhm.
remember the other ones. My mentor was Ann Marchak, and she left a lasting impression. And to be honest, I was an Australian goofy guy. Had a good time and drink beers with other doctoral students. Well, everyone else was so serious and they were so goddamn smart. This is 2006. I met all the American PhD students. I thought these people were the most well-read, most knowledgeable people I've ever met. They literally had heard of every theory. Where I was like, I know my theory. I don't know anything else. That was amazing. So this was very formative in that sense. I had Bob Smoot talk about the IT artifact. That was the thing at the time, and I had no
Yeah.
idea what he was talking about. So it was formative. It was daunting. But yeah, so it took me to, no, it didn't take me to a different level, but it showed me a different level. What I appreciate very much is it took me my way. Like they talked about what's next. They expected everyone to graduate next year and do so well, because otherwise you wouldn't even be here. And they talked about how to take the next step. And I never thought about
Yeah.
that at that point. And I appreciated that
Yeah.
very much. Like, what's the first year after the PhD? How do you build your career? How do you build a network? How do you scale your papers? How do you do good
Yeah.
teaching? And I thought like, wow, okay, that was really good. Yeah. So I liked it
Yeah.
overall, but it was
Yeah.
intimidating a bit.
I think it's fun to meet the like senior people of the field, right? And then I think the more important part is meet each other, right? And
Yeah.
now I never did a doctoral consortium, but Sean Hansen, my buddy, did the year we were, we finished around the same time. Uh, so he's the one that Kali put up out of his students for the ISIS doctoral consortium. So I never went, but he ended up making a bunch of friends, guys like James Howison and Stefan Zeidel, who's now my good friend, right? He ended up networking and making a bunch of good friends from his
That he
doctoral
thrives
consortium.
off still like 15 years later,
Well, and
right?
but then
Yeah.
and what luckily he introduced me to his network and that helped me with my network, right? When I was
Yeah.
early in my career. But I think it's wonderful for not just learning about the field, learning the senior people, but also the peers. But so I didn't do a doctoral consortium record. What I did was after I started at University of Georgia, I did this junior faculty
I
consortium.
did that too. Yeah.
And I have friends to this day from the Junior Faculty Consortium. And basically, once you get your PhD, whether you're a postdoc or an assistant professor, it's like before tenure, then you can apply to the Junior Faculty Consortium. We're going to be putting out a call there. And there, the folks we have lined up as the mentors for the Junior Faculty Consortium are Stephen Johnson from UVA, Stefan Zeidel, our buddy, Youngjin Yu, Ahmed Abbasi. So we have a couple Notre Dame guys in each one. Marshall Van Alstein's going to do it. Melissa
Wow.
Masmanian, Elena
Wow.
Karahana, Anjana Susarla, Lin Wu.
Wow.
She's been on the
Wow.
podcast.
That's pretty
Nosh
good.
Contractor and
Wow.
Lionel Robert. Right. So
So
great mentors doing literally everything. Like Lionel Robert does whatever robots, Nosh does
he does
networks,
the
Lin
robots. Yeah.
well, he does. He's self-driving cars and robots. I mean, he's kind of
Yeah, he
that guy,
is.
right?
Hey, so I will say, like, with your nice pitch, I will say this: I've done both. I thought the GFC, the Junior Faculty Consortium experience, I think I did it 2009 and or 10, both of the, like something like this, and at the AIS
Mhm.
conferences, and they're phenomenal. And I think they were even better than the DC experiences. Like, these are really important because this is only in this very vulnerable, very important time of, where the tenure clock is ticking, etc. So go there. The networking is fantastic. The mentors are very good, and the topic is very well bound. Because in the DC, you still have a little bit, you have one group that is basically on the way to finishing. They want to take the next step, but you also have people that really want some feedback, right?
Yeah.
So I will say this for the DC applicants. I think one of the errors that the doctoral students, you got to go in with an open mindset and let these
Mm.
people that you will have the chance to talk to, let them help you change your course. There's no point if you go into DC and saying, I'm going to do this, and then I'll be done. And then people want to give you feedback and then you're not listening or you're being defensive or whatever. What's the point? You don't need to go, right? So
Yeah.
usually these people have very good ideas and your peers everyone has very good ideas, and you need
Yep.
to be receptive to these ideas, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's a little more serious, the JFC, in the sense that everyone there is now committed to the field. They are your peers. They are the people I mean, if you look at my JFC, the people who are at my JFC are still in the field and they're, professors at various places. And
Also,
I mean,
the networking makes a lot
yeah,
of sense because these people also are on the tenure clock. Everyone wants to write
yeah,
papers. Everyone looks to networking collaboration. In the
yeah,
doctoral consortium, sometimes people just want to finish, their thing, and they don't want to start that next thing necessarily, even though it might be a good idea. But the GFC time, is a good time to get more input,
yeah,
mentoring from outside of places where you usually get that. And secondly, I think the peer networking, yeah, I see that, right? So you can build
yeah.
some really cool relationship with people you might hang out still with like 30 years later. How cool is that?
Yep. Well, and I'll tell you this right now, the people that I collaborate with, other than my specific mentors like Kali and Youngjin, and then students that were of theirs that I worked with, people like Aaron Lindbergh and James Gaskin, right? So that's like my home network. Outside of that, the people I do research with are my friends that I met at these things. They're my peers, right? I didn't go find senior people to work with me. I work with my peers, the people who are at kind of my
That's
stage of the
amazing
career.
because, dude, I
Yeah.
like this, like maybe the final thing, but this is the one thing I didn't do, and I regret it. So in 2014, I was asked to give a keynote at the DC at ISIS in Auckland, Aussie connection. Um,
Yeah.
so I went and I said, look, guys, this networking opportunity is here. Make use of that, because I didn't. Well, there's many reasons why I didn't, but in 2006, when I went to my DC, the only people that are still around from that time are Monica Tremblay and Gal Ostrahesinga. That's the one I remember, even though Jerry Kane says that Sam Ransbottom was around at that time. I don't remember.
Hmm.
So, in other words, I haven't worked with any of them. So
Yeah.
this is on me, of course, right? So I didn't take use of this networking opportunity in the '09 junior faculty. I don't remember meeting anyone that I still work with either. This is on me. And I want to say very clearly, be more like Nick,
Yeah.
because you're right. Like, this is a great networking opportunity. Not everyone is a great networker, of course, but try to make more out of it than what I did. And, I would
Well,
say
and
as
I'll
much.
I'll give
Yeah.
you one example of how this network really worked well for me. I was invited by Susan Helper, who actually was in the Obama administration. She's an economist
Cool.
at Case Western. So she invited me out to MIT for this automotive thing. IMVP, International Motor Vehicle. I don't know what it was called, but Machine That Changed the World, that book in the 80s, right? That led to this whole motor vehicle cross-disciplinary research program. So she just brought me. And these are people, I had no idea who they were. I didn't know any of them. And there's like a random dude from Carnegie Mellon sitting there, another PhD student. I didn't network with the senior people. I didn't do anything. I just go to this guy. His name's Jaegul Lee. And we just sat down, started talking. We realized we both like to run. Now he's in a totally different field. He's not an IS guy, right? So we would meet up and we'd go for a little run. And then he liked drinking beer as well. So we had beer after. And then we struck up a little bit of a friendship. And then we just kept talking. And then we found a paper. We ended up doing 3 papers together right around that time, right after my PhD. He was my level. We worked together. We're friends to this day.
That's
We're in
awesome.
different fields, but and it's like, you know what you do? This is my strategy. There are 2 bits of advice I would give to the networking, right? The first is, everybody's awkward. If you're PhD students, you're all sitting there looking around going, I don't know anyone. They don't know,
Yeah.
if you happen to know people, great, invite people into your group, right? If you don't know anyone, just have the courage to just go sit down next to someone who looks like they might not be too unfriendly and ask them about themselves. There are 2 topics that always work. One is tell me about your research, and the other is where are you from? Right? Whatever country, whatever university they're from, just ask them about the culture, ask them about the food, ask them, so where they're from. And so like Jay Gould, my buddy, right? He's Korean. And of course, Young Jin is Korean. So then I immediately got on the topic of kimchi with him. And then you would just run off, so it's like, you always have 2 things to talk about, and that's how you build and you invite people into the conversation. And then they're all desperate to talk to people too. So just do it. So that's the one thing as far as networking, and do
That's
it with
very
your
good
peers.
advice.
Too
Yeah.
often they think, oh, Recker's there. I'm going to go meet Jan Recker, and then I'm going to try and start a project with Jan Recker. Jan Recker has too many freaking projects. He's probably not going to do he might, but he's probably not going to do your project with you. But there's probably another young person sitting at your table who's really bright, has great method
Quite true.
chops,
Yeah, everything.
access to something, and you just build up a friendship. That could be a career. That could be a friendship for life.
Yeah, I fully agree with both pieces of advice. I'm not good at these things. I'm not sure I'm now, but I certainly wasn't good then. But you're absolutely right. Spot on. Everybody else is in the same boat. Everyone else feels the same way. Get some guts, talk to them, make some friends. Because the one thing I will say, I to this day, we work with our friends. That's one of the beauties of our professions. You meet
Yeah.
friends along the way and you click and then you start producing podcasts.
All right. So this is what we decided today, Record. 1, special issues. So you and I have 3. And 2, we're going to get people to the DC and JFC. So there's the one for AOM, CTO. Then May 5th is also the deadline for ISIS, but it's probably not the deadline for the application.
No.
After that, you can look for ISIS.
Yeah, there will be like June, July, I'm guessing, will be the application for the junior faculty consortium, for the doctoral consortium. I'm not sure who's involved. I think I'm involved in the junior faculty consortium for that.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Or was ours? I can't remember. But anyway, like, it doesn't matter. But there will be this. The one thing you can trust, on these level of conference, there will be good people. ICES has always great faculty. AOM has great faculty. Some of the conferences, whatever, but these ones you can trust. Go in with an open mindset.
Yep.
Be ready to take on advice, and of course, build up a little bit of courage, and just remember everybody else is there to meet, and no one knows anyone either. So make some friends, and you will benefit for life.
Yeah. And I think you could do both. Yeah, you can totally do both ICES and AOM. And
absolutely.
I frankly would suggest you do it. If you're a third, fourth year PhD student, you're further along in your research, and you're going to be a professor, an IS professor, or something in innovation and technology. Do both. And I think it'll pay off in spades with your career.
Absolutely. All right, dude, you got more important things to do, and I'm getting a coffee, I think.
You're getting a coffee. All right, my brother. See you next time.
See ya.